And I'm back in the room. So if you watched my last email or my last video, you'll know that I'm basically just sitting here doing lots of recordings today. Anyway, I haven't done any in a while, and I did mention in the last one, I haven't done any in a while because I've just been dealing with some emotional stuff, what we call dark night of the soul. Now, you may have heard the term and may not know what it is. You may not care what it is, and that's fine. But dark night of the soul is basically, it's a spiritual journey we go on if we care to, where we have an opportunity to heal stuff. So, what are we healing? That's a good question. We're healing our own crap because when we live in this planet, we deal with certain traumas. And if we don't look at it and heal it, then we carry it around with us. Those wounds stay within us. So the idea is that it's kind of like going to counseling. So if you know that you've been through a particularly horrible thing and you know you need some sort of therapy to work out and make sense of it and to heal it, then you might go to therapy. People have different ways of dealing with things. So that's basically what it is dark night of the soul is what it's called, and it's kind of a spiritual journey, so to speak. It's not fun, so I'll say that. It's also not linear. And a lot of times, and this is, okay, so I'll start out by saying this is my experience. Your experience of the journey will be totally different if you are somebody that's wanting to do it or care to do it or want whatever. We may not choose to heal. That's our own crap. So everybody's journey will be different because we all have different experiences in life and different traumas in life. When I say trauma, I mean trauma makes it sound like it's very kind of very theatrical. Now, any kind of trauma we deal with is trauma. And if you think about this plane of existence that we're in, there's trauma from the day that we come out of our mother's womb. And what's the first thing the doctor does when you come out? Slap you on the butt. So there's your first trauma right there. Not only that, you're being born into this very sterile room. Lots of bright lights, lots of people wearing these white robes with a mask and the blah, 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 blah. It's not natural. In a natural environment, women wouldn't go to a hospital to have babies. I mean, to me, the whole thing seems a bit weird. Hospitals for sick people. When you're pregnant, you're not sick. I get needing to be near a facility if something goes wrong. I get that. But surely we'd have some sort of like a midwife unit or something, which is completely different. That it's a place that you can go where it's soft lighting and it's soft music, and you have a midwife that works from you, or a birth doula maybe works with you from the moment you get pregnant all the way along. So we have lots of trauma. And actually, when we're in the womb and when we're in our mom's womb, we have trauma as well. So if a lady is pregnant and during her 9 months of pregnancy, let's say she goes through, she has a bereavement, major bereavement. Let's say that she goes through some major tragedy in her life. Maybe she's in a car accident or someone's in a car accident and she's any kind of trauma that you go through when you're pregnant, that emotion feeds in the baby. Just the same as anything that the mom eats in a physical way, the baby's going to either gain or lose on whatever vitamins or lack of vitamins you're putting in your body. So we tend to focus so much on the physical, which is great because if a mom is pregnant, it's good she's getting her vitamins, eating the right foods. But we don't really look at the emotional state, the mental state, the spiritual state, because all of those things feed into the baby. So whatever we're going through when we're pregnant feeds into the baby. And of course, as soon as you're born, slap on the butt, there's your first trauma. Welcome to Earth. And I would say, I probably didn't even want to come here. It is a crazy, crazy environment. Not the planet. Love Mother Earth. I have a lot of time for Mother Earth and all her children. What I don't have a lot of time for is the Matrix, what I call the Matrix, which is the whole, and I've said it. I remember getting depressed when I was a teenager thinking, I gotta work my whole life. I mean, the idea of having to work to live. And I'm a big fan of the bird. I feed the birds in the garden. I've done so for years and years and years. And I'd sit and watch them. It was my greatest joy. Sit and watch them. And I think, they don't have to work. They don't have to get paid money. They build a nest with what they find. They eat what they find. and they're just tweet, tweet, tweet. They seem happy. So anyway, let's get back on topic because I'm really bad at getting off topic, but I'll get back on topic. So the dark night of the soul is basically healing the trauma of whatever you've been through. Now, anything you've been through as a child is not your fault. However, when you get to be a grown up, the healing of that trauma is your responsibility. So we've all been through something, and I would say I'm not going to address like really extreme kind of trauma because I know that some kids go through very extreme childhoods where it may be great deal of poverty, maybe great deal of abuse. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what you would call just an average person. Even an average person has trauma. You have trauma surrounding your upbringing based on the adults that are around you. So how strong are the adults? I mean, are they capable of bringing up children? Some mothers have depression when they give birth, and so they are not able to cope bringing up a baby in the first part of the baby's life. So that creates a trauma. So it depends on who's present in your life, who's absent in your life. It depends on, are the parents together? Maybe your parents have separated or divorced when you're a child, or maybe they stay together but they just argue all the time. Maybe you've had to move 500 times before you're 10 years old because your parents just they have a business that takes them around. I talked to someone recently who parents worked in the pub trade, and so he said, because he got it when I said I was a military kid. And he said, oh, I get that because you've moved a lot too. He said he moved a lot because his parents were in the pub trade. So he said, I went to like 10 different schools in 2 years. So that creates a trauma because depending on your personality, are you going to make friends easy at your new school or not? I was an introvert. I struggled being put into a new school and new environment. So I would actually say the military life does not settle well with my soul. It is what it was. I grew up in a military environment, but it's not what my soul would choose if it wanted a perfect life. So we all have some form of trauma. So I'm not talking about the severe trauma. Yes, there are kids that go through severe trauma, severe abuse, and I'm not talking about that. And I'm not talking from the perspective of a counselor or anything. I'm not a counselor. I'm just going by my own experiences. So I'm only sharing my own experiences, my own wisdom of what I've been through. So anyway, so when we grow up, and I would say we probably start to find ourselves maybe I would say early 30s when we start to really connect with who we are. And the image I get in my mind is of a tree root. So I see when we're around late 20s and early 30s, it's just starting to grow deep. And then by the time you get to my age, and I'm nearly 60, it's kind of getting attached to the earth. I mean, the strongest wind's not really going to blow that tree over now. And so when we get to be an age where we can take responsibility for ourselves, that's when if we can recognize that we need to heal, we start healing. And so we're healing our own stuff, and we're also healing our family stuff. And the reason I say that is because if we don't heal our stuff, then we'll put it on to the next generation. So if I had children and I hadn't thought I need to heal anything or started to heal anything, whatever crappy things I was exposed to growing up, ways of being, I don't know, habits, whatever, I probably put those onto my kids. And then they would have that to heal as well as their own stuff. So it's like a domino effect. So way back in time, you had an ancestor that had trauma. Domino fell over. They didn't heal it. Next domino, next domino, next domino. And if you've ever seen those people that put the dominoes out and they have like this huge, huge, huge domino display and it's all kind of, and it's a big, big pile, that's kind of what happens. And it just takes one person in this generation and the kind of the lineage. It takes one person to say, do you know, it's stopping here and I'm going to heal it. Now, will I heal it in this lifetime? Probably not, but I will do a portion of healing. I will heal my stuff and hopefully my ancestors' stuff to some degree. And that's all I can hope for. There's no time limit on it as well. So I've got some little props. I was trying to be cute and funny. So I have a little props that so there's a lot of stuff. So, because my brain is like thinks a million miles an hour. And right now I'm kind of wired. I don't know why, But something clicked in on Sunday. This is weird. I was out doing something. I was chatting with a friend. I had an errand to run. I was chatting to a friend, and it's like something clicked in me. It was like, oh, rush of energy. So I feel like a very, if you know tarot, I'm like in a very wands thing right now. It's like fiery, fire, fiery. So I'm going to go off on tangents, and I may not kind of get back onto track. So just bear with me, and if you may switch off. I don't really care. Anyway, so when people talk about dark night of the soul, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about healing your crap and owning your stuff. I mean, I've learned in the last handful of years, when you start owning your stuff, it makes a huge difference, not just for your own self and how you feel. Because let's say, for example, someone says, do you want to go out? And I just don't feel like it. I should be able to say to them, you know what, I really don't feel like going. But we've evolved into such a way that we are so worried we're going to upset someone or offend someone. So we come up with a million excuses why we're not going to meet them. Oh, I have other plans. Oh, something's come up. Instead of just saying, I don't feel like it. And if the person doesn't like your answer, that's their stuff. And that's what we have to start realizing. So once I start owning that stuff and I quit trying to come up with I guess we call them white lies for things that I don't want to do or don't want to commit to, it changes, because whenever I would do that stuff, I could kind of feel it physically. I can't explain it and I can't tell you where, but I would feel it physically. But now it's so freeing. And, I'll own my shit, as they say. I'll own my shit. Excuse my French, but I'll own my shit. And if I screw up and I get something wrong and someone says, you said this thing and actually, it wasn't right, or you made a mistake or whatever, I'll own it. I'll say, yep, okay, I did. It's not how I meant it. I meant it this way. I could see how you picked it up on that way. Didn't mean it at all. I'll own my stuff. And ever since I started doing that, it's like a weight has been lifted off of me. So when we talk about healing our dark night of the soul, so a few things that you should keep in mind when you're doing your dark night of the soul. You need some ingredients for that. So the first thing, part of the dark night of the soul stuff is when you hear the word triggered, when something triggers us. So for example, someone says something like, all women are blah, 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 or all this are, so whatever you choose in life. So let's say you're a vegetarian, or you're a vegan, or you're a woman, or you're a man, or you're, I don't know, whatever it is you are, and someone says, all men are like this, all vegans are like this. And if you feel yourself getting a bit riled inside and you're thinking, how dare they say that? First thing you got to do, your first ingredient here is you need this, which is a mirror. That's your first thing. You need a mirror, because then you need to look in that mirror. You need to say, why is this triggering me? That's the first thing. And you can literally do it, because when I start doing that, so when someone says something and I feel myself either getting a little annoyed or a little frustrated or a little angry, I start thinking, okay, why is that moving me? Why is that pushing me? Why is that making me feel the feels I'm feeling? And I know these sound really kind of touchy-feely kind of things, but once we start examining why we're feeling or responding in that way, then we can start healing our stuff, because everybody is free to feel or think or whatever. Opinions are your opinions. As I say, opinions are like bums. Everybody's got one. And that's okay. Everybody's opinion is their opinion. But if someone's expressing their opinion and it's getting me frustrated, then I have to look at, well, why is it frustrating me? Because no one can make you offended. We are choosing to be offended. And we're choosing to be offended because there's something unhealed in us. This is my belief, by the way. So you have a different belief. I don't care. No one can make you upset. No one can make you offended. This is this thing, and we've all grown up with this, because society keeps us as victims. Because as victims, we're easy to control, we're easy to manipulate. And so society basically teaches us, first of all, they teach us to be children. That's a whole nother tangent. I do a whole nother video on that. But society teaches us to be a victim, because when we're a victim, we're easily to control. We're very sad. Oh, I'm a victim. That's why I don't like to label stuff. So I suffered burnout a few years ago, and I don't like to label it, because if I say to people, I had adrenal fatigue, I'm still healing from it, I'm labeling myself as a victim. And so really the adrenal fatigue has me. So if I get ill at any time in my life, I have to take control of that and switch it around. Otherwise, that thing will just consume me. So anyway, where was I? See, I'm off on a tangent. So when we say things like he made me say this, he made me act like this, he made me upset. No, nobody makes you anything. You choose to be that because there's something unhealed in you. Because everyone's entitled to their opinions and everyone's entitled to express what they want to express. And we live in a society now. I mean, it's gotten so bad, especially with social media. Everybody wants to be heard and respected. I just want to be heard. I just want to be seen for who I am. Well, if you want to be seen for who you are, so does other people. So if for them being seen and heard of who they are, they want to express themselves, and that's fine. I totally believe in free speech. I don't have to listen to it. I can switch off someone that doesn't vibrate on my frequency, so to speak. If there are comedians out there, I think that's really dire. I wouldn't say that or think that. That's okay. I can switch it off. I don't have to listen to that. Um, so so the first thing we have to do is get our mirror and we have to ask ourselves, why is this upsetting me? And then that's part of your healing. So once you recognize that your emotional state on how you're feeling, if something's upset you, it's because there's something in you that's unhealed. There's the child in you. So if you think about your trauma goes back to your childhood. There's the child in you saying, this upset me because when I was 7, I was desperate for someone to hear that I was hurt or upset and nobody was there. So that's what, it's connecting dots. And I feel myself getting upset because Dark Night of the Soul is lots of tears. I've been crying lots of tears lately. So I have lots of mascara that's waterproof, I have to say. So what other things do you need during your Dark Night of the Soul? You need a box of tissues because there'll be lots of tears. As I said, lots and lots of tears. The last month, oh my gosh, I've cried so much, so much. One of the things I enjoy doing is listening to mantras, singing mantras, but listening to mantras. Last week I put on a mantra that I love, and it's on YouTube. And the recording's about an hour long. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely love it. I put it on and I just sat here and cried and cried. And I thought, this is weird. This is a beautiful mantra. I love it. And it's supposed to be about fulfilling me and healing me, but it was crying. But one thing that I've introduced into my routine, so to speak, because I don't do routines, but my routine is healing with medicinal or ceremonial cacao. I've tried it twice, and I didn't really recognize that I was crying a lot more, and I went to get energy healing, and my therapist said, I expressed this to her. I've been crying all the time. I am part of a theater group, and I have rehearsals on a Wednesday, and most Wednesdays in the last, I don't know, few months, I'd be crying all day, and I think, come on, you got to put your makeup on and go out, because I have to put my face on, so I got to go see the world. And she said, you've been doing the cacao, ceremonial cacao, and I said, yes. And she said, it is a plant medicine. And she said, but it's very gentle, so it's not like something. And I'm not really into. I don't foresee myself ever doing ayahuasca or mushrooms or anything like that. But she said it is medicinal, and it affects the heart. And she said it is a very gentle healer. So you may take it on one day, and then it may be 5 days later that you start noticing that you are crying and purging a lot. So that was very interesting. That there are a lot of tears, especially after I did this. And I haven't had one in a couple of weeks, so I will probably do it again. But she said it's a very gentle healing thing. Anyway, so that's, yes. So you need a box of tissues because it'll be lots and lots of crying. And don't worry about the crying because you need to get it out. So when we hold back our emotions, so if we get angry, we want to express it. And I say a really good thing for when you want to express your anger. I collect all my bottles, so like your jars, your bottles, your ketchup jars, whatever. And then when you want to kind of let out, go to the bottle bank and just chuck them in there as hard as you can, because I find that very medicinal. So yes, so you'll need that. The next thing you need is you'll need a clock. because there's no time limit on the dark night of the soul healing. And you might even need a diary, because it won't just be hours or days, it might be months and years. Because I have a feeling that we don't entirely heal in this life, and it's okay, we're not meant to, but any forward strides we make is a benefit. And the way I find the healing stuff, um, is it's like going up a stairwell, and then sometimes you feel like you're in a like a oh, I've reached the landing. I feel a bit of peace in my life, and that's how I feel at the moment. Sunday something clicked in me, and I, like I said, I have this swords energy, not swords, wands energy at the moment. Very kind of, and I'm not an energetic person. I always claim that my spirit animal is a sloth. So there, my favorite thing is just to be horizontal with a book or a film. That's my favorite. So yeah, so sometimes it's like really hard going. It's like, it is like I'm going to use another, another tarot reference. It's like the 10 of Wands energy. It's, you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you might feel like absolute garbage. And then it's like, I've reached that level, and you get a bit of a respite, a bit of peace for a bit until the next stairwell. But the other thing to keep in mind is sometimes you have to go down. So healing's not linear. Sometimes you move forward a couple of stairwells, and then you go back down a couple, but then you might move a couple steps forward. Sometimes you have nice kind of a bit of a respite for quite a while. So healing's not linear. There's no time limit. You might need a clock. You might need a diary. Some other things you might need to smudge. Smudging's good, clearing your energy if you're into that kind of thing. And also, if you're into that kind of thing, some crystals might be very good. Just holding the crystals really makes a difference. Um, I've got an amethyst here, and I've got a rose quartz here. Rose quartz, well, both are very good for heart. Rose quartz is very much for love and heart healing. And they're good to, I usually have one in my bra. What do I have in my bra? Today we have carnelian. Yeah, so sometimes I sleep with them under my pillow. Interestingly enough, I have a big hunk of, I'm going to show it to you. Just a second. Let me go get this. I can't think of the name of it. It is a quartz. Now I don't normally go for these kind of colors. I normally go when I look at crystals, I always will go for the blues, the deep greens, the deep, more of the cool colors. I love blues, purples, lapis, all that kind of thing. So I was shocked that I was attracted to this. I went to a Mind Body Spirit Fair last year. This was sat on the table, and I thought, ooh, that looks like Mars. Looks like Mars. But it's a quartz. I can't remember what it's called. I need to look it up. But I think the coloring comes from iron, I believe. And it was just beautiful, and all of the different swirls of color, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I was so attracted to it. And I said to the lady, I don't normally get attracted to this kind of stone. And I did read the card. I don't have it with me, of the attributes of the stone, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's how I'm feeling right now. And it is a thing that you usually are attracted to, the one that is calling you out, saying you need this energy today. So interestingly enough, I slept with this under my pillow Friday night, and the dreams I had were so lovely. I don't really remember them, but I remember the vibe of the dreams. They were like light and fluffy and beautiful, and there was lots of friendship and just nice things in it. So it was lovely. It was a nice little respite from just the kind of ordinary dreams. And actually, a lot of my dreams are kind of very boring, like I'm at work, I'm at school, I'm back as a teenager. So kind of really boring things. So what else will you need on your journey? Well, you might need lots of these. These are cups of tea, especially if you're British. The British are an interesting, so you can tell by my accent that I'm not like from here, but I am from here. I have one American parent, one British parent. So I grew up in two cultures, although I have the American accent because that's where I spent my formative years, and I can't lose the accent, unfortunately. Um, the British they're very resilient, group of people, and I am British, by the way. I do have a British citizenship. Very resilient people, and it actually was a really, I think it was a very interesting position to being brought up within two cultures. In one respect, I don't belong anywhere, and that's been kind of a trauma in my life because I've never belonged anywhere. I'm not really one, and I'm not really the other. Because I go to America and they say, "I like your accent. This is American," but they think I'm British. Um, so I don't really belong anywhere, and that I think that's part of my trauma journey. Anyway, I don't want to get into that stuff. Whole nother video, and I've already talked for 25 minutes. So the British are very resilient, and you can. My experience of them is you can pretty much take away every comfort they have as long as you leave them their cups of tea, and it could be we could be in the middle of a war. We could have aliens appearing in the street coming to say, take me to your leader. We could have, the bin men not collected the bin for a month. We could have so much stuff going on outside. And most British will have a moan and say, oh yeah, it's awful. I couldn't afford my dinner last week. And, I need to get another job because I'm about to lose the place I'm working at's going to close. And, oh, I couldn't afford the school uniform for the kids. And they'll go, never mind. Let's make a cup of tea. Because when a British person drinks their cup of tea, it makes everything better. So, if you're British, you're going to need a lot of these. And in fact, mine's getting a bit cold right now. And there's probably loads of other things you'll need. But I have another one, not but friend to introduce you. Another thing you might need is a warm fuzzy. Now, some people are lucky enough to have cats and dogs and horses and whatever companion animals in their life. But if you don't have a companion animal, you might need just a lovely little soft friend to squeeze and cuddle. So I want to introduce to you and wave to the people. This is Sir Clive Petitfalou. And and I'd have to say, and I know it sounds really silly. I'm nearly 60. It sounds really silly, but when I've had some losses in my adult life, it's weird. I just want something. And I think I'm trying not to get emotional because we know I've had lots of tears lately. I think it goes back to childhood because when we're it's a childhood trauma. When we're going through a challenge in our life, whether it's a loss, a bereavement, whatever, we want comfort. It's natural. We're human beings. We want comfort. As a child, you usually have the comfort of your mother. Hopefully, you have the comfort of your mother or father or close family members. But as a grown up, what do? I'm on my own. I don't have a best friend to give me a hug and say everything's going to be okay. I'm on my own. I'm doing this journey by myself. So, I can give Sir Clive a lovely cuddle. We can sit and watch a film on the sofa. And I know that sounds really silly, but hey ho, I'm allowed to be silly. I'm getting to the age where I get to have purple hair and be crazy, and I'm going to be the crazy old lady. Anyway, so I've just taken a note of the time, and I kind of want to wind this up. So anyway, when people talk about Dark Night of the Soul, you don't have to do it. It's your choice. But if you're finding that you go through life being triggered by all sorts of things and you don't like that this person has an opinion and that person has an opinion, and I find it hilarious because a lot of people spouting out how they demand to be taken, what do you call it? They demand to be seen. I'm an individual and I want to be seen for who I am. They also demand that they want to control how you see everything, how you talk about them, how you refer to them. And I don't know, it's crazy. So we've got people who want to be accepted as they are, but they also want to control how the rest of the world acts around them, which I find weird. And instead of the only thing we can change, if you think about it, the only thing we can change is ourselves. We can't change the rest of the world. We can only change ourselves. So again, if someone says something and I get upset, I have to examine why am I upset? Now they could have just said, hey Terri, you're really ugly. Your hair looks stupid today. Well, that's their opinion. If that's what they think, that's what they think. Chances are I won't be hanging out with them anymore. But really, if I'm picking my friends based on the fact whether they think I'm cute or not, then I guess they're not really my friends anyway. On that note, I'm going to shut up because I want to get this posted and finish my tea, which is now pretty much cold, but that's okay because we can put the kettle on and make another cup of tea because the more tea you have, the better life gets. And I probably will, well, I might talk a bit more today. I don't know. I've got some other bits and pieces to do. I'm talking a mile a minute. As I said at the start, I have what my high school teacher called verbal diarrhea, because I've just, like I said, just got this like wands energy at the moment. On that note, I'm going to shut up and thank you for listening. If you got this far, you deserve a medal. Anybody who gets this far deserves a medal. Thank you for listening so much, and many blessings to wherever you are. Thank you very much, and namaste.